Hello, everybody. It's the weekend, and it's time for another mighty glue stick update on monsters. It's a little bit late. I hope none of you were overly worried, but I had a busy weekend. Hmm. Okay, so continuing on with our giants series. Next up, after our frost giants, of course, we have to cover the fire giants, and fire giants are awesome. So I'm going to go a little bit different on this video. I'm going to talk about what it's like to experience the presence of a fire giant. First of all, you're in a very nasty, hostile terrain. This is the sort of terrain where it's not built for little people to survive in. Fire giants are immune to fire, and they craft things constantly, and they like to live around sources of molten heat. So they like to live in volcanoes or lava flows or anywhere where they can create raging infernos or have forges and smelters and things like that, which are dangerous. I mean, any surface that you put your hand on could scorch and hurt you. The very air itself is a poisonous fume. They are not only immune to fire, but I'd imagine all of the products of fire, so the noxious chemicals and things like that from smelted alloys and weird, mysterious things that they put into their crafting and things could kill you just from breathing their air too long. So you'd be best to be well protected when you go into a fire giant's lair. They aren't solitary creatures, they live together, and they are very martial. And so you might hear the pounding of footsteps in a rhythmic formation as fire giants are practicing katas, ritualistic military dances of combat. And their mindset is very much think of them as just as the frost giants are an accentuation and an enlargement and aggrandizement of Viking culture, fire giants are really the perfection, the ideal and savage nature to a humongous proportion of dwarven culture. So dwarves being that sort of crafting and under the mountain, very martially orientated, very honor bound, and steadfast in their ways. But instead of dwarves basically hold fasting and protecting their own and really trying to strive for a peaceful life, fire giants are the exact opposite, and they will go out of their way to rampage and test their weapons and martial prowess against any foes that they come across, and they routinely go out and decimate the landscape. So while they do live inside mountain fastnesses like great big fortresses of impregnable steel, they do occasionally live in colder climates and things like that, where they basically adapt by burning up forests and things like that. So elves and treants are really not going to like fire giants turning up on their doorstep. So they are the descendants of Masood, or in the modern monster manual, Surtur, the primarch of their clan. They, as it says in the monster manual, they take their martial arts very seriously, and they practice them almost constantly from a very early age. As soon as they can stand, they're taught combat stances and how to hold a sword and things like that. Now, if you look at a fire giant, they're 18 feet tall. They're not the biggest of giants. They're about on a par with a stone giant in height, but they're massive and stocky and broad and round, much like a dwarf is, with flaming red hair, and they have the elemental nature of a fire giant is very prominent, and they look like, when they're angry, they look like they're going to explode. You know, they're throbbing veins, and you'll actually see them glowing with heat under their skin. When they are fully awake and active and aware, their eyes glow red like embers. And when they're slumped in their chairs after a hard day's partying or singing or doing whatever, or crafting, their eyes will glow a cooler blue, or it will sink down to a red ember glow until they're fully awake again. The smell of burnt iron and rust and noxious sort of chemicals and things, the electric arc of ozone, that sort of smell will permeate the air around them, along with a spicy sort of air as well. Their entire environment is hot, and they like to maintain that heat wherever they go, or be wrapped up with heaps and heaps of furs and things. But they're quite capable of leaving their mountain terrains or their forests, which they've chopped down and things, and traveling great distances, and they'll travel upon huge machines which they've crafted. Now, here's the thing with fire giants. dwarves got all of their technology, all of their crafting skills and things like that from basically copying it off the fire giants, which have enslaved them throughout the ages past. Imagine they were originally the slave minions of fire giants, and some species, some breed was, or they were perfected really by their exposure to these elemental masters, and all of the dwarven arts, all the dwarven architecture and style is derived from fire giants. So fire giants are really like, it's like you've walked into the gods, it's like you've walked into Moradin's hall and you're looking around great titanic dwarves of huge stature, of a limitless power and endurance, who will just craft away day and night until they've perfected the tiniest nuances of whatever they're designing, and then they hold forth a siege weapon which is capable of smashing a bolt straight through a castle from one side to the other. They are capable of creating things which can take down titans and gods. They have bested and blasted through horrors from the Dawn War, abominations, god hunters, and nation killers, and trapped them in impregnable chains and caskets deep below the earth, in the very core of the planet. This is what fire giants do. This is the legacy of fire giants. They are the craftsmen of the rest of the giant kind. When cloud giants take seized metals and things like that the frost giants have stolen from others, they will give them to the fire giants, and the fire giants will craft them into epic items that even gods envy. So, fire giants they've got an AC of 18, their challenge rating 9, so it's quite likely that you're going to come up against these things when you delve into the deep places of the world. Fire giants will be troving around looking for resources to take, and they quite often are out and about looking for metals and ores and new techniques and things like that, or enemies that they can test their might against. So you're quite likely to encounter them just about anywhere. Although they stick to molten environments to live, they range widely over the entire world. They have about 162 hit points. They're pretty strong. They've massive endurance. They're not too stupid. I mean, they get intelligence 10, wisdom 14. The charisma's 13, so it's pretty good. But that's mainly through intimidation. You face one of these things and you're like, whoa! And they're great personalities. They spend their entire lives learning and practicing by rote and by story and by demonstration the arts of craftsmanship and warfare. And it sort of warns you in the monster manual that if you look upon these things, you'll think of them as big lumbering giants, right? Slow moving, hauling up boulders and throwing them and things like that. But when you get into combat with these things, you'll be surprised that they whirl around like dervishes. They are consummate martial artists. So think of 300 and things like that, where they basically come charging in and they are just pounding and smashing and flipping and cartwheeling and doing all sorts of high-flying John Woo style combat techniques that just will blow your mind. It's like the first time you saw Yoda use a lightsaber. It's just incongruous. It doesn't quite match up with what you would imagine the fire giant was capable of doing. But sure enough. Meanwhile, they're unleashing massive amounts of elemental power because it courses through their bodies. They have a lifespan of about 350 years. Now that's another 100 years on top of a frost giant. So you imagine that, like I said before, it sort of matches up with their rank on the ordning, or how close they are to their elemental origins. And fire giants they're immersed in their element all the time. So yeah, in combat, certainly allow them to jump with plumes of fire behind them, or clap their hands and bellowing smoke comes forth, or they smash vials of noxious chemicals and things like that upon their wounds, which alloy up in the air and close over them, or drink things and belch out fire, or all sorts of things, weapons which can blast out rays of flame or heat beams or anything you like, really, as long as it's flamey or fiery or forgy or alchemical. Go for your life. In their domains, they have trapped fire elementals inside robotic bodies, which are traveling around and fixing things or smelting things or hauling ore or mining for them. They'll have slaves which are tied into vats and churning away, making alchemical formulas and things. And yeah, nightmare domains that they've cloistered away. So when you go into their environment, they don't expect anybody to come and penetrate their environment in the first place, short of a massive army coming to besiege them. Infiltration is something I guess they turn a blind eye to, because they're really not concerned with ninjas per se, or adventurers coming into their realm. You're basically like vermin to them, and if they find you, they will treat you accordingly. They will smash and burn you out, taking great delight calling on others for this fun little game of killing the adventurers who come into their domain. On the battlefield, of course, they are devastating and will think of nothing of setting fire to in the entire village just to flush out opponents that they can squash and smash and skewer and slap across the battlefield. So yeah, fire giants, enthusiastic masters of mayhem, the forge, and destruction.